Welcome to R.S.V.P. Listen to the show at your own risk. We will be discussing all taboo subjects like religion, sex, violence, and even politics. You should be ready for controversy, disagreements, face-offs, and maybe some downright rumbles. Well, sit tight and get ready for this week's episode. And by the way, if you're squeamish about obscenities, don't listen to our fucking show! Hey everybody, it's Diane Daniels, and it is the R.S.V.P. show. We're talking about taboo topics, and today we're going to be talking about gaming. Okay, and does gaming contribute to violence? Is gaming addictive to our kids, our teenagers, maybe even your husband? Well, does it make you depressed? Can it alter and change mental health of an individual? Bernie and I are going to take a look at that today, and we're going to be talking about gaming and what we think and some facts about gaming. Right, Bern?
We sure are. How are you, love?
I'm fabulous. How you doing, sweetie?
Pretty good. Not bad. The week's gone so fast. Can't believe we're back here again so quickly. But bloody excited to be talking about this. This is such a controversial topic. And honestly, I'm not a gamer myself. So, I don't really kind of understand, like the whys behind it, etc. Except for, I guess it's sort of like, like binge watching TV. But it was interesting talking to people about this over the last week, and to see how many people are into it, and that there's pros and there's cons, and there's been lots of studies have done about it. So I reckon let's get into it.
Yeah, well, do you know that here in the U.S., over 97% of the kids between the ages of 12 and 17 play video games?
Yep. Doesn't surprise me at all.
97, babe. 97%.
I know, yeah. I mean, and you think about that, don't you? So, 97%, you might as well round her up to, a clear 100% of kids, right?
I know.
So there's over 64 million kids around the world that are playing games. And, of course, there's all sorts of games, right? We've got Minecraft and we've got Warcraft, and you've got educational games, and then, you've got war games. So there's so many different games. And I think a lot of people
games.
have done...
Do you have Candy Crush and things that anybody like you and I or a grandma can play? So there are lots of different games.
We do. But, even you go back to the old Pokemon games and all that sort of stuff. I never, ever got into it, right? It was never, and even now, somebody sends me a bloody invitation on Facebook to play Candy Crush or whatever it is. I just go delete straight away.
Well, I don't do either, and I only think it's really because we're so busy, because we're of an age where we're still working and taking care of family. But let me ask you something. We're in the same age group. When you were a kid, did you not play Atari?
No way.
You didn't.
Love. I said pet. I said love. I was brought up on a farm. We were flat out watching friggin' TV.
God.
No, I'm dead set serious. We used to wake up early in the mornings on a Saturday morning, right? Because Dad's a farmer, so he's up with the bloody chickens and the birds and whatever else gets up at dawn. We would get up early, us kids, and we would turn the TV on, and we lived out in the country, so we only had 2 TV channels to choose from. One was the ABC, which is like a educational one, and the other one was a commercial TV. And we would turn the TV on and turn the sound down and get in 10 or 15 minutes of watching TV before bloody Dad or Mum got up and said, turn that shit off. I kid you not.
Before you turn it off, that's what you did? And then what? You had to go out and milk the frickin' cow? What?
Yeah, love. Yeah. You get up, you get showered, you get changed, you get breakfast, and you get outside and you work, baby.
I'm so sorry. I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. Okay, so...
No, I look back on that.
We played, okay? We were kids. You play. You have fun. You don't worry about the troubles in the world. Our age, we played outside. We had imaginations. We were creative. We made up and did whatever we wanted. we were home, we played what was by Atari. We had Pong. It was the most freaking caveman type of game you could ever play, for God's sakes. It was one little paddle and just a turn and thing we thought it was so freaking great. And now that you turn on the TV with these games, they look like real people. Okay. But that was my experience back then with those types of games, Atari and Pong, showing how old we are. But as of now, ever since I really got out into the working world and had a family and everything, I have not played games at all, just like you. Not at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we've all got our interests. And one of the things that, was interesting about studying about this topic is that people do gaming for different reasons, right? So they'll do it because they want to escape their real world and go into a virtual world, and they do it for distractions. Other people do it because they want to have something to talk about and they want to have the social interactions and build up virtual relationships that they've got with people that they game with around the world. So their social networks. And other people do it because they're competitive, because, a lot of these games are about, you do this and you do that and then you get rewarded and you get to the next level, the next level and the next level. So I guess there's a certain amount of achievement that's attached to it as well.
Never mind that. Now they have professional. They win lots of money now. There are some of the gamers compete for huge prizes. Yep. Okay, I was watching it during a Corona thing. There was something on about them playing a car race. It was like a virtual car race, and it was literally for money. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So
there
but
are have a look at all the
reasons,
big,
but we're talking about today, where kids and adults have taken it too far, where they have been playing it way too much, way over the top, where nothing else in their life matters except playing this game. And how it deals with and preys on their mental health, their personality, how it can make them angry. Is it a proponent of violence? That's what we're going to talk about now. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's look at some funny stuff, right? We got some funny pictures. You got one, don't you?
I do have one talking about the real world. I mean, and I mean, like, this is funny, not funny, because it's quite stereotypical as well. And this it's the picture there, if you've got it, John, about the guy that's talking about, like, okay, well, yeah, not that one, but anyway, we'll talk about this one here. So, like, this is like my son's. Are you going to go with that one, John? Because I could have. Yeah.
That's
so
number one.
My son's 11 hours, right? So this is a picture of, like, this woman has got a son who spends 11 hours a day on it with her Xbox addiction. Her son,
right?
And then the funny part is like, this guy's going like, those numbers are terrible. What do you mean? Like 11 hours a day? Like, you got to work on that shit, man. Like, you got to get up around 18, 22 hours a day. And you know what? People do spend upwards of 18, 20, 22 hours a day gaming.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, it's just like other addictive things. It's just like alcohol, drugs, gambling, food, all of it, all the addictive things out there. Gaming can definitely become addicted. And 11 hours, I mean, that's a lot in a day, for God's sakes, to be playing a freaking game. Damn well addictive if you're going to be playing 11 hours a day. All right, I got one for you. Here we go, and we're looking at the little kids now playing some games, and it's like, stop shooting, you idiot! We're on the same game! Little kids, for God's sakes, okay?
I know.
I mean, all ages. As soon as they can touch the computer and start playing, they're playing the damn game. So these little kids that are like 5 years old, all right, are like using violent games and shooting people, for God's sakes, even though they shouldn't be playing those games. They're listed as M for mature, but they're on there and they're playing them and they're freaking killing people and loving it, okay?
Yeah.
Little kids.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of, like, I mean, a lot of parents too, like, I think this is the two-edged sword of technology. Technology is such a wonderful, wonderful thing, right? It's brought so many things right into our living rooms that we did not have, like, when you and I were growing up. But the two-edged sword of that is that you've got kids that have been given iPads and iPhones, etc., like, from, their kids are playing, babies are playing with iPhones because, like, mum and dad are out having dinner and the kid needs or wants some attention, so they give it the iPhone to play with.
Yeah.
So we've got these kids that are already integrated into that technology world and their brains are not developed. That's the problem.
I know. There's a lot of things that contribute to the problem.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, I could tell you're very into this now. So let's keep looking at some funny
am.
before you bore me to death, okay? Next, you got what this thing called the server.
Oh, this is,
what do you got?
Yeah. This is what I was talking about before. Like, I mean, this little darling, like real life, never heard of that server as a thing. I mean, again, funny, not funny, right? Like, because this is actually what happens to most of them. Like, because real life, it's what real life? What are you talking about? My life I've got online is way better than my real life.
But that's all I got. It's on my server. If it's not my server, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay?
Yeah. What else do you got, woman?
All right. I really love this one. I peed in my pants when I saw this one, okay? This one is freaking great. This one. No! Grandma. Number 4, Grandma. Yeah! Grandma, after 6 games of solitaire, give me that AK-47, Grandma.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. I freaking love it. I was paying when I read this. Too funny, Bird.
I am crying.
It was so funny.
Oh my God.
Because I could just see all the old ladies playing these games and getting pissed off because even with solitaire, they couldn't even get their hand or whatever the hell it is. And I could see them starting to throw shit at their husbands.
Oh my God. Oh my God, love. You better watch her out around that community where you're living then. Don't let them see any of that. Because you'll go outside and you'll have all your grannies up on the rooftop with their AK-47s.
Hey, no Walking Dead over here. I'm telling you now, we got it covered, all right? All right. Yeah, now we got your brain. Tell me about this brain thing.
Okay, so the brain thing is like not so funny. So this is actual like what the brain does, the game does to your brain. So you see at the top there where it's got before training, after 1 week and after 2 weeks. So they did 2 groups. So one group where like there was no video games. The second group is where they had a video, they were playing video games. So you'll see after 2 weeks, the difference in the brain patterns that are there. So those people that are out there that are saying this does not actually affect your brain, this is the medical evidence from MRIs that show you that it definitely affects your brain. And sometimes it's quite a positive thing, so you can improve cognitive ability and problem solving and skills. Interesting enough, for girls, it seems to be that it improves their skill sets. But for guys, particularly young males, it definitely doesn't. Like the effects are actually quite negative. Although there's a lot of research out there which is pros and cons and fors and against.
Let's put it this way: there's nothing definitive, and that's the problem. There's nothing definitive.
No, that's
there's
right.
Thousands of studies, and there's studies that will show you things that definitely are happening, and then of course the other side is going to say, "Well, it's not conclusive," so that's it.
Yeah,
okay?
that's
so if it's not conclusive, then screw you.
Yeah,
that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So. I hear you, but
however, having said that, in 2013, the American Psychiatric Society did put internet gaming disorder as a disorder in the DSM-5. So it's actually now seen as a medical and a mental health condition. So that was from 2013.
So is masturbating with one hand like 5 times a day, okay? But you're still going to have people that are going to give you crap about that, so... Anyway, here's the last funny one. It's about the Xbox. Let's see here. So, you have more time for your video games than you do for me? Have you ever heard of an Xbox? There you go. Listen, fellas, you got to give some time to your women, okay? If you spend all frickin' day on your Xbox, you ain't going to have that woman. You might as well just love your buddies because that's all you're going to have. You ain't going to have a real relationship. That's for damn sure. Right, Bart?
But yeah, that's right. But your virtual buddies too, right? Because if you're spending that amount of time on your Xbox, not only do you not have relationships with your partner, you don't have relationships with a lot of other people either.
Nobody.
So you better be loving those virtual companions and virtual relationships because that's going to be pretty much all you're going to be left with, I said, love.
That's it. Get yourself into the imaginary world. That's all you got going for you, buddy.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, you can kind of see how that's interesting. I mean, did you watch the movie Avatar?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, like I loved that. Like I love that movie so much. I went and saw it twice, right? Like one day after the other.
God.
I know.
It's like 4 hours or something.
You know, yeah, I know, but I loved it so much because the colors were so vibrant and the avatars were so cool and, you know, they looked so real and the whole world itself looked so real. It was so attractive. And I think that's kind of what happens for people, like when they're gaming, right? Like as they go into this world, this virtual world that's been created for them, but they also can create worlds within that world for themselves. They can become their own avatars. They can become anything they want.
I know, it's scary. Okay, no, really, it is. Okay, because people have to live in real life. Okay, and that's something that's fine if somebody would like to do on their own time and a certain amount of time. It's just like everything else. Too much is no good. You can say that about anything. Too much is no good. So it's the same thing with the gaming. Okay, an hour of two, that's great. But when you start playing 4, 6, 8, 11 hours a day, oh, come on, that's way too much. Way too much. More important things are going on in life that somebody should be addressing than sitting in front of a console and playing a freaking game.
Yeah, but you can see, like I said, why people do get sucked into that, like, you know, why they want to escape, because for a lot of gamers, it is about that. They want distractions from stuff that's going on in their real world and they want to escape from it. So, you know what, I'm going to go into this virtual place and I'm going to become and be whatever it is that I choose to be, because they do build their own avatars within there. They have their own names. They build up their own communities. You know, they can become the king and the queen of anything.
Oh, I know.
So I do get.
You got something going on about addiction, right? You got something that you want to
I've got something going on about addiction. So this is actually from a guy he's done a documentary, and we're only going to play like the first 1.5 minutes of this. But honestly, for anybody out there, any parent or anybody out there that thinks that you've got an addiction or your kids have, this guy has actually done his journey about being addicted to Warcraft. So John, can you roll that YouTube video for
I have ventured across vast landscapes, exploring new worlds with limitless adventure awaits. I have reached the highest of my level, and I have risen defiantly against all those that threaten the peace of my kingdom. I am a hero. I am a legend. I am Severin. I'm Severin. I'm a level 85 Blood Elf Paladin. I'm a Grand Crusader, and I'm a proud member of the Horde. In my spare time, I like to ride around on my Spectre Tiger and stand around in Orgrimmar. I have killed the Lich King. I am a lore master. I have over 9,000 achievement over 160 pets, over 125 exalted with 50 factions. Master Chef. I have a Raven I'm Lord, an explorer. An Armani 5 proto drakes, 16 dragons, realm first, celestial light dragon, of dawn, achieved, Starcaller, exalted, defeated, conquered. And I enjoy long walks on the beach. I used to wake up early, log on, play all day, and then go to sleep. That was my routine for over 400 days of my life. But hey, I wanted Severin to be powerful, so I set up my own raiding guild, QT Yacht Club. It was like a community where people could be social and raid together. I used to run everything. Lead the raids, maintain the website, deal with recruitment, but raiding required a lot of time. It was like a team sport. You'd have to play together to defeat the hardest bosses.
Was watching and hearing, that's like a small insight into like Warcraft, which is like this massive game that's played by millions of gamers all around the world. And this young guy, Anthony Rosner, has done this documentary about how he was gaming for 18 hours a day for 2 years of his life. And I know, 18 hours a day for 2 years of his life, right? But you can see just by listening to that and watching it about how it can be so attractive and how you can get so drawn in. I mean, imagine this, like, say you're 13, 14 years old, right? Whether you're a boy or a girl, but let's say you're a boy. You've got limited friends at school. You've got a whole heap of stuff going on at home. You've got no real social interactions. You don't feel like you've got anybody in your corner. And you don't really have high self-esteem. You don't like yourself very much. You haven't got much confidence. You don't really know how to relate to people. And then you see something like that, right? So Anthony went in there and he was exactly that kind of person.
Very charming.
Yeah, very charming, right? And he went in there and he created himself as Severin. And, you saw that Severin was a hero, like he was a leader, and if you go and actually watch that documentary, and it's called IRL, If Life Was Real, right? You can see it on YouTube. He goes on to say how he actually went in there and he created this avatar of himself, and then he met this other female gamer, and she was an avatar, and they fell in love online in the game, and then they went to meet in real life. And then, of course, when he met her in real life, she'd moved on and found someone else. And so the relationships that he thought that he actually had that were real online in his Severin life, he actually worked out were not real off of his life.
Right.
He ended up, like not being able to do uni, feeling depressed, having anxiety. So it leads to, if you're going to become addicted to this, it leads to so many mental health issues and so much social problems, and that basically then you're disconnected from the realities of life, which means you can't cope.
Right, you can't cope. And not only does that lead to the depression, because that was the one place you thought that you were going to be accepted and could excel, and have these relationships. If that falls apart, you feel like you have nothing. Leads to more suicides and lots of other terrible anguish amongst people. So we will put up, have the URL for you on our Facebook page. So you'll be able to see it there, especially if you're listening to the podcast. You can go to facebook.com, Diane Bernadette Show, and we'll have that on there for you so that you could watch this video. It's an excellent documentary. Really, really is. It was amazing for this young man to do that and for him to be able to pull through from that. Excellent documentary.
It is, and I think it's a really good snapshot for people or even parents. Like if you think that your child's addicted, or you think that you're addicted yourself, is actually hearing his story and hearing about the loss that he had while he was gaming because he wasn't living his real life, and then what he gained when he realised that he did have an addiction to it. And he still games, right? So he will still go in and play games because it's part of his passion. But his passion hasn't actually now overrode his entire life. So now he's out there, he's at uni, he's done this documentary, he's got social, skills, he's got social relationships, he's got a girlfriend, he started DJing. So all of these things that he was not able to do because he was locked in his room for 18 hours a day just playing Warcraft.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so many things that can develop in it. Addictive behaviors come because something is so attractive. It's something that feels so good. Okay. And then it also, your brain also tricks you into saying, give me more of that, give me more of that, because of the hormones and endorphins and things that are released. Okay. Also, you have to fight with that now because it wants it, because it's so attractive to you and to your body. So it's a very difficult thing when something becomes addictive. And gaming is definitely one of those things that can become addictive to people. You have to be careful. There's nothing wrong with playing games. I love to play games, okay? I haven't been online playing games like these games that are out now. We talked about how old I am and playing those old-time games, but I do love to play games. And I totally know how much fun it is. I'm a competitive person. I love it. But you have to realize that there's more to life than just playing that game. okay? And you have to make the best of yourself in your real life, with your family, with friends, and develop yourself and become somebody and become a person in your society and a good citizen and do what you want to do. Okay, it's not just all about the make-believe world. You got to get out there and do it. It can become very, very addictive. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
So you got.
And one of the reasons why it's so addictive is because they've done studies where when you game, it actually stimulates that part of your brain where it dumps the pleasure centers, so it dumps the dopamine into your body. And what they've worked out is that that's almost as intense as if you do, like, you intravenously take a drug like an amphetamine, like a stimulant drug.
Probably,
so you
or
can
doing
imagine,
cocaine. It's the same thing with everything, whether you're smoking, whether you're drinking alcohol, whether you're doing any kind of drugs, whether you're eating, people that are so addictive to sugar. I mean, sugar is one of the worst addictive things that causes the pleasure center in the brain to go wacko.
Yep.
Okay, so you have to be very, very careful when it preys on that center of the brain that is just fucking explodes because of pleasure. You got to be careful.
And the problem with that too is that when you get those explosions in your brain, like from the dopamine, etc., it sends messages to that part of your brain that stops producing the dopamine naturally in your brain. So what does that mean? It means that to assuage your cravings, whether it's sugar or alcohol or gambling or gaming, like, whatever your choice is, that means you need to go and do more of that to actually get the same sense of pleasure. That's how addictions actually work. That's
exactly
from
right.
a chemical perspective.
Exactly right. And you know that coming through your counseling background, you know exactly what you're talking about. You deal with so many people with addictions, and it's so important for people to realize what they need and that they don't need that physical product or gaming or those type of things to make them feel better, or having it in their brain telling them to feel better. And I know how hard you work with these people to try to figure out how they can not be playing those games and doing those kind of things. I know it's hard. I know it is for you. I know how hard it is.
It's an understanding and education for them that whatever their choice of weapon is, so whether it's sugar or whether it's gaming, it's about actually getting to what is it that you're trying to escape from. So what is it that you're trying to immerse yourself in, distract yourself from, run from? And it's identifying what those things are in your life and how those things are affecting you. And when you're especially like a prepubescent, like adolescent, or you're an actual adolescent, particularly young males, your brain is not fully developed, your frontal left brain doesn't really get developed till you're around about 21, 25. So the impacts of spending hours and hours and hours alone, isolated in a room, no matter what you're doing in there, right? Like whether you're gaming or whether you're binge watching TV or whatever it is, shutting yourself off and being a recluse and trying to shut the rest of the world out is just something that's going to cause you more anxiety. So these sorts of things lead to clinical diagnoses like depression, anxiety disorders, lack of self-esteem. It leads to aggression because the coping mechanisms that you have in your real life, then if you've got any kind of like normal stresses in your life, you don't know what to do with them. You don't know how to cope. So therefore you can lash out, you can become more aggressive, you can become violent. So maladaptive behaviors is how you learn to cope with stuff in your life. And this is where I think we get to the sticky point about, so is gaming directly linked to violence? And I know Trump has said that he links gaming directly to, mass shootings in the US, especially in the high schools, etc. And I would say it's like much more complex than that. I wouldn't say that you could say gaming is the direct cause of that, but I would say a lot of these kids, they are socially isolated. They don't have relationship building skills. They're lonely. They've got anxiety. They've got depression, and nobody is really helping them with that. So they just naturally become reclusive, find their pleasure wherever it is that they can, and then one day one little thing will send them over the edge, And then that's it. Then they go out and they do an act where it's irreparable. And I'm not saying that, they'll go out and do mass shootings, but I'm saying that, it's a form of self-harm, really, so they harm themselves or they harm other people.
Yeah. And so here in the U.S., 60% of middle school boys and 30% of middle school girls. And here in the U.S., middle school is either 6th, 7th, and 8th grade or 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Okay, that age group. And those children who played at least just one mature rated video game ended up hitting or beating up somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 60% of the boys and 30% of the girls who played at least one of those games. And that was a peer-reviewed study from the Journal of the American Medical Association. Like we said, there are hundreds of these studies that are out there. Yep. And I believe that if you're going to show somebody violence, okay, it is a contribution to at least an increase in aggressive behavior. I'm sorry. It is. Yeah. Because if I'm going to sit there and we're going to play a game and I'm going to be killing people and I have no disregard, I don't care about their life, okay, and I have no respect for life or authority, well, that is going to desensitize me to life in general. So that means when I'm finished with this game and I go out into the real world, some of that will carry over into the real world, and that desensitivity will carry on with me in my real life. And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I think most people in the whole entire world feel that way, that it will at minimum desensitize our children and even the adults, okay, about their feelings about life in general and our respect that we had before about life and so many other cultures. The Japanese and the Asian cultures are so wonderful with their culture about life and their elders, and they're so respectful. Here in America, after all of this gaming going on, it's disgusting to go out there and talk to kids that are in middle school and older. They have such a disregard, okay, for life in general, for their elders, for their parents, for anybody in authority, whether it's their principals, whether it's a religious leader, politicians, police officers, people in the military. They have no disregard. They could care less if they got killed or not. That is so sad for them to feel that way. And I believe that the violent games have definitely played a part in that.
Yeah, I'd also say too, though, that's cultural, right? Because in the Asian cultures, gaming is massive. Like they have got millions and millions of their people playing games. So, but like you said, do they have these kids then going out there and doing, mass shootings or committing violence or being aggressive? So I think, again, it's complex. It comes back to a whole cultural perspective. I mean, I don't know what you feel about in the States, but I think the whole gun control is part of the fabric of your society. And so if we've got this whole, groups of children that are recluses and they've got limited social skills, they've got trauma going on at home, trauma going on with themselves, they're disconnected from friends, they're disconnected from school, they're disconnected from authority, they're recluses, they're in their rooms for 12, 18 hours a day, they're watching video games, playing Warcraft or whatever it is. Their coping mechanisms are art, right? So then something in real life keeps piling on top of them. So their go-to coping mechanism is lashing out violence. Mm-hmm. And then do you think that's a reason why then, because there's also too limited gun control, they'll go and grab, guns and then go out there and do mass shootings? Are they the stepping stones that happens for American children?
Well, I don't know if I want to say it's a stepping stone, okay, because I mean millions and millions of children are playing video games.
Yep.
Okay, millions and millions. Okay, so we're talking
Yep.
about a smaller percentage, but I do believe that the proponent of watching over and over again the ability to shoot and kill someone and not feel anything about it, just kill them so you
Yep.
can get 5 points. Okay, or slice them and stab them with a sword, decapitate them, disembowel them, all the different things that they're doing to these figures on these games. Okay, it's a desensitization with these people. Okay, and when they get out there in real life, that's how they feel. They have no respect. They might not think twice. That might be what pushes them over the edge to do the violence. But many of the school shootings that have happened in America, starting way back from Columbine, when Harris and Cleobold in 1999, okay, they killed 13 students. They did play hours and hours of violent video games. Okay, and it can go on and on. I have the list. James Holmes from Aurora, Colorado, in the movie theater shooting. Jared Lee, okay, Lochner, who was the Arizona shooter who injured Republican Gabby Giffords and killed 6 other people. Anders Breivik, who killed 77 people in Norway in 2011, and he admitted to using Modern Warfare 2 for training to do that shooting. So a lot of these massive shootings that were mass casualty shootings with these young teenagers and young adults, they did play violent games, and many of them used it for training. But again, we have millions and millions of children playing, and it doesn't affect them like that at all. I just feel like, not that it's a stepping stone, but being able to play those games, if a person has a certain personality, aggressive behaviors, I feel like it just raises that level. It raises that level of that child and allows them to feel that they can just go on out there and create this violence without any repercussions, because they have desensitized about their feelings about life and about authority. And they have no love for these people. They barely love themselves, so they don't care. So I feel that it is definitely a propensity to these crimes. Not a definitive factor, not a stepping stone. It's it's not like when they talk about drugs. If you start with marijuana, is it a gateway drug? I don't think that's the way it is for most children and teenagers, but for the ones that have aggressive behaviors and are totally isolated and recluse and have these issues that aren't being taken care of, I feel like it just pushes them forward to create the violence for them.
And I think one of the things to be mindful of too is that, like, when we're talking about aggression, is if you have a look at the profiling of these kids that have done mass shootings, just as an example, it's not that they're outwardly aggressive, right? So they're not ever really known as the school bully or anything like that. What they are is mainly introverted people. So they're people that keep their feelings and their thoughts locked away inside of them. And their only sense of release is through gaming, or through, like, a lot of them, like, have written journals and they planned what they're going to do, and they've done their training, etc. And then they go out and do something massive like that. It's like their glass of water is like this full and it's brimming and it's right up to the top, and then it just takes that one little thing to tip them over the edge, and then you've got this massive explosion. And I guess that's what I'd like to say to parents out there dealing with teenagers for years and years and years, is that just because you hear your kid laughing and playing games in their room and swearing and having interactions with people online doesn't mean that that's necessarily a healthy reaction to have. And a lot of parents go like, oh, he's all right. I can't tell you how many parents I've seen in the course of doing counselling with their kids who go, but he's all right, because, like, I hear him laughing when he's in his room. But you don't know what he's laughing at, love. You know, and you don't know who he's talking to, he or she, you know, and then you can hear, and they go like, oh, you know, but he does stand up for himself. Like, you know, I hear him swearing at other gamers and all that kind of stuff. So parents view that this is also normal behaviour is something that contributes to it as well. And then if you've got parents that are gamers themselves, then you've got the entire family that honestly just retreat to said corners of whatever rooms and they just will game away.
Yeah, what a friggin' fuel for a nitrogen bomb right there, okay? The whole friggin' family is gaming? For God's sakes, okay? That's nothing like but an atomic bomb right there, okay?
Yeah.
All everybody cares about is themselves and playing their own thing and getting in their own world.
Yeah.
What a disaster. Right there.
Yeah, it does.
And
I mean,
help
if you've got
for those
parents,
people, okay?
Yeah, if you got parents that are staying up gaming, right? So parents are working, so they work through the day, so they game at night. So they might be going to bed like at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Then they're sleeping in. So kids are getting up, they're getting their own breakfast, they're getting themselves off to school. There's no regulation about what's happening. They've got to make their own lunches. The messaging to the kids is like, oh, well, you know, mum and dad are sleeping in, so therefore they don't care. You know, kids are going off to school without any kind of food. And then, so it's all about the messaging, and everything is about doing something in balance. And if you're a parent out there and you've got your kid, and I hear this all the time, but I can't get him outside. You know, he doesn't want to go outside and play with his friends. Yeah, you've got a problem. If you've got a kid who prefers to stay in their room for up to 6, 7 hours at a time and doesn't want to go and play with their friends on the school holidays, doesn't want to have any social interactions, doesn't want to come out and eat with the family, doesn't want to come out and contribute to the fabric of the family life, you've got a problem and your kid's got a problem. So do something about it and do early intervention.
Clue. You ever hear of this? Wake up, McFly. Do you know what that is? Wake up, McFly.
No.
You know what that's from?
No.
That's Back to the Future, for God's sakes. Come on, people. If they don't want to come out and have dinner, they don't want to come out and sit and watch TV, they don't want to come out and do it, get the hell in there and drag their ass out and sit them down in the damn chair. Okay? You got to do something. You can't just be like, oh, little Johnny doesn't want to. Little Johnny, never mind. Take control. You're the parent. You're the parent. You are responsible for this child. Do something.
Yeah.
It's going to be too late. If you just let it go, and then you're going to live a life of guilt if something happens. Take care of little Johnny.
What happens then, right, is that the kids then develop depression or they then develop anxiety. So then the parents will come and they'll bring them to someone like me and they'll go, look, little Johnny, you know, he tells me that he's depressed, or they'll start self-harming and do all sorts of stuff, right? So can you fix that? Can you do something about that? And of course, I can work one-on-one with the young person, but at the end of the day, the fabric of the family and what's happening with that family unit is actually what makes the difference. And it's even worse now because you've got so many kids that are in split households. So many kids that are in blended families. So you might have one parent who's got this kind of parenting style and one parent who's got that kind of parenting style. So one parent might go like, oh, it's all right, he's okay, he's not bothering anybody, etc. And of course, when these kids, you make them come out of their room, guess what? It's not going to be rainbows and butterflies, people. They're not going to go, geez, thanks so much for pulling me off your game. Guess what? They're bloody aggressive and they're sullen and they don't want to talk and they're going to sit at the table and give you the death stare. And if you talk to them, they're going to give you one-syllable answers. So basically they're going like this, right, without actually going like that.
They're going to curse you to death.
That's exactly right. So that is not the time to go like, oh, yeah, you know what, get the shits with them and go give in and go, you know what, it's way easier for me in my life if you're in your room and you're on your Xbox or you're talking to your friends because at least you're out of my hair.
Yeah, right.
That is not why you have children. So monitor them, turn the bloody internet off, go through their iPads and stuff like this. And I know young people hate this, right, because it's an invasion of privacy and everybody's on their rights these days, especially at the moment. But at the end of the day, It's your role as an adult, a carer or a parent to step in between a young person and themselves to help keep them safe. And if I had $1 for every single time a young person said to me in counselling, if only mum and or dad had set the runway for me, I would never have done the things that I've done and ended up being where I am.
Well, listen,
And
any
that's the
child
absolute
under the
truth.
age of 16, I'm sorry, they don't have very many rights, okay? They're juveniles. They're children, okay? They don't understand. You're the parent. You're the adult. You take care of your children. You speak for them, okay? You can have conversations with them. You can communicate together, but ultimately it is the parent's decision. You don't let a 14-year-old tell you, screw you, I'm going to play my video game for another 5 hours. Screw you.
But
Friggin' take the game and throw it out the window and break the goddamn thing.
But if those parenting boundaries are not put in place from when kids are really little, by the time you get to 14 and 15, right, and the physical size of some of these kids is an absolute problem too, right? So you've got like a kid who's sitting in front of you, standing in front of you. You've got a mum who's like, 4 foot nothing, and you've got a 6 foot son who's like 110 kilos, etc. So then you've got like this intimidation and all of this kind of stuff that comes into it. So it's not just about doing this when they're 14 and they're 15. You need to be aware that these teens, these children, are what I call technology teens. So we have got this first generation of kids that have been brought up in this world of technology. And I don't care how many studies we've done, right? We have got zero or very limited idea about the actual effect on brain development and on behaviours and on social interactions that are actually going to affect these kids into the future when they then go on to be adults and they then go on to be parents.
Exactly. They're kids. That's all you have to remember. They're kids. They don't know. Okay, they don't know nothing.
Yep.
They're freaking kids. Be responsible, parents. You got to take care of your kids. Okay, put some boundaries together. Okay, show them.
Yep.
Actions
and if you don't know what to do, go and get some support around it. Like, if you've got to put boundaries in place, because I tell you right now, trying to put boundaries in place when a kid's 13 or 14, that is hard work, people. I'm not saying that it's going to be bloody easy, but it's definitely something that needs to be done. It's not ever too late, and it makes the kids feel safe. If a kid feels like it's safe, it feels like they're loved, right? It equates to the same thing for children and even for teenagers. So if you've got parents that are emotionally disassociated from their children, and they let them go off into their rooms and do whatever, or, even like going out all night and all that kind of stuff, the message you're sending to your kid is that, you know what, I don't really care about what it is that you do. And it's not even about trusting. I know that I trust you to make sure that you're making the right decisions. The fact of the matter is that sometimes they will not make the right decisions because their brain is underdeveloped. And if it's affected by things like gaming, and they're in their rooms for 18 hours a day, it's even more affected.
This is true, Bernie. All right, listen, I got to get to the side of the day because you know how the time goes here. It's like freaking almost over already. I don't know how it goes so damn fast, but it does. All right. So here's the stat of the show. This one's going to blow your mind, Bern. Here in the United States, there was a Supreme Court case. Okay, and in the Supreme Court, I'm sure it's very similar to your Supreme Court. Yeah. Whatever they say goes, it is. Okay? The law of the land.
Yep.
So there was a case called Brown versus the Entertainment Merchants Association. The United States Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that the state of California could not ban the sale of violent video games to minors, because studies do not conclusively prove that violent video games cause minors to act aggressively.
Look, I mean, what do you even say to that? That sort of stuff pisses me off so much, because we're just talking about how parents and adults need to step up and step in. So in order to support parents to be able to do that, you need to have the legal systems and the framework behind the parents, so that the kids go and say, you know what, you can't make me do that. I can watch that because, it's not against the law for me to watch that.
I understand it, but still, parents still got to take control, okay? So the Supreme Court justices have to rule based on the Constitution and what it says. They have a framework, and that's where they stand, okay? In the framework. Outside of that, can't talk about that. So the parents have to get involved now, and the parents have to stand up and take charge and take control of these children. There's nothing wrong with playing games, okay? But it has to be for a shorter time, and they have to be involved with the rest of the family and with their regular life, their school, their homework, their friends, their chores. They have to understand about responsibility, to start learning how to become an adult and take care of themselves and future families. Parents, you have got to get involved, and you've got to stand up and take charge and take this stuff away if your children are getting too involved with gaming, especially violence gaming, especially violence.
I mean, I agree with that about the violence gaming, but honestly, if you've got your kids sitting in a room for up to 6-7 hours a day, and they're being a recluse, and they're not getting friends over, they're not being invited over to friends' place, it'll affect their school grades, it'll affect their behaviour at school, your family interaction, they won't go outside, they've got nothing else or limited other things in their life except for whatever it is that they're doing in the room, like whatever game that they're on, then again, you've got a problem. So it's time for you to have a look at that and go, okay, so what interventions can I put here? Who do I need to talk to? Because these kids are our future, and your child is going to grow up one day and be an adult. So what is it that you want for your kid as a parent? You want them to be happy. You want them to have great self-esteem. You want them to be able to make good choices, have great relationships. They're not going to be able to do those things if you let them bring themselves up basically through the world of technology. It's just not going to happen.
No, it's going to desensitize them to feelings about life, about property, about loved ones. They're not going to care. It's not going to mean anything to them. It's so important for things to mean something to you, that you deserve it, that you want to go for it because it's something worth going for. You have to take part in this, parents. You are the most important part of the puzzle. Okay, and you cannot blame the children. They're children, okay, and they depend on you and their mentors to make this happen. So parents, I'm telling you, make it happen. Be involved fully in your children's life. And please stop allowing them to be in there playing games 6 and more hours a day. It'll make a big difference.
And get help, get support. If you need help yourself with what's going on in yourself and your own life, whether it's work or relationships, etc., then go and get support and get help for yourself. So in order for you then to be a healthy, balanced human being, an adult, so that you can be a mentor and a role model for these children, and then go and get support for your kids as well. But whatever you do, just don't let these years go on and on and on, where eventually you've got a young person who has got little to zero coping mechanisms and no emotional regulation. So when they go out there into the real world, because the real world will invade their virtual world at some point in their life, they can't stay in their rooms forever, although I guess some people do, so that they've got coping mechanisms so they can feel good about themselves. That's all of these kids want. They just want to be able to feel good about themselves.
They do. Parents, if you have no idea what game they're playing, get the hell in there and play it yourself. Go see what they're playing. Yep. See what are the components of the game. What is involved in the game? Is there violence where there is allowed to be killing, raping, stealing, and other types of violence? That is not a game your child should be playing. So get fully involved, parents. This is up to you. This is your responsibility. Take charge. They're your children. Let's go, people. Let's get back to a society where we care and respect life and property.
And
Hey, we
value,
got to get to
like where we
freaking spinning
value.
this wheel, or no, we're not going to have an idea what
Go
we're
on,
freaking doing next week.
spin that, baby. Spin it, woman.
Okay.
Go on, get into it.
There we go.
Here we go. Look at you go. What are we going to land on this week?
Wild card, baby.
Oh, wild card. I can't believe how many wild cards we're having.
We're very lucky.
We are lucky, you know. So for those of you who don't know, wild card means that we get to talk about anything and everything. So if you've got something that you want to talk about because you think it's bloody great or controversial or it's taboo, then email us at rsvppodcast.com. Did I get that right for a change?
Talk at rsvppodcast.com.
Stuffed it up again. Talk. Talk at rsvppodcast.com.
There you go. So I think, Bern, we're trying to give the best advice we can to people. There has been no definitive answers in regards to any of the studies.
Yeah,
I
right.
totally personally believe, from my police background, I have seen children that have been exposed to violence, that it helps perpetuate violence in their behaviors. I know you have seen things too. It is definitely a contributing factor. I will definitely say that violence in a gaming is a factor that helps to appropriate violent behavior. You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about looking behind that, like what are these kids escaping? You know, what is it that they're feeling propelled to go into this virtual world? What's missing in their real world that the only way for them to feel good about themselves or to have a sense of power and control is to go and do what Rosen did, which was create himself some, I don't know, elite blood elf or whatever it was, and become the leader of his own pack because he didn't feel he could do that in his real life.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
let's find out the why behind it.
Is to offer your child some macaroni and cheese. Kraft macaroni and cheese or Velveeta macaroni and cheese. If they take it, we still got a chance. If they don't eat it, there's something so freaking wrong. You better sit your damn kid down and talk about it. That's all I'm going to say. Macaroni and cheese. Yeah.
Mac and cheese, love. Hey, I'm gonna try that in some of my sessions, right? Like, so when they come in, I'm just gonna hand them a bowl of mac and cheese and go, here we go, love. Get that into you and tell me what's shifted and changed for yourself.
There you go, babe. Well, another great show, Bern. I can't help but telling you, thank you so much for your opinions. I appreciate it, love. I'll see you next time.
Ciao, Bella.
Welcome to R.S.V.P. Listen to the show at your own risk. We will be discussing all taboo subjects like religion, sex, violence, and even politics. You should be ready for controversy, disagreements, face-offs, and maybe some downright rumbles. Well, sit tight and get ready for this week's episode. And by the way, if you're squeamish about obscenities, don't listen to our fucking show!